Don't mind it. Just continue.
Hey everybody, this is Erica from the Classy Climb blog. We're here today with Mr. Khaaz. He's a co-founder of Electronic Commerce, and I'm super excited for him today because we're going to be talking about sales in 2017, but in general, how to be a master of sales. So how are you doing today, Mr. Khaaz? And please say your full name for the audience.
Oh yes, my name is KhaazRa MaaRanu, and I'm doing very great, Erica. Thank you for asking.
So your company, you're a co-founder of Electric Commerce. And, we were just briefly discussing, sometimes the websites aren't always pretty, but you can make a big impact in sales by actually doing the work. So please share with us some of your journey. How did you get to be one of the co-founders of this company?
Sure. So it's Electronic Commerce, and the website is ec-processing.com. And the way I became one of the co-founders is initially I was kind of working in the industry. Let me back up for a second. So I used to work for a school, basically. I started volunteering for a school in an after-school program, believe it or not, totally free. And then they brought me on staff at the school, and then I became like some kind of, I forget what they call it, assistant helper or something like that. It was a really low paying job. And then I became the technology person for the school, and it was so much work. I think I might have made maybe $32,000 a year or something like that. I forget what it was, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. So long story short, I wanted to make a change. And so I got into this field here. I basically took my last check. I had 1 month left of rent to pay. And I went online and Googled an opportunity. I flew out to Irvine, California, and I think I spent 2 weeks doing like their level of training. And I think I tripled my income within 8 months that year. Within 8 months, I tripled my income of what I had been making previously. And then I think I worked there for about 2 years as a consultant. And there were certain things that I was not comfortable with. So I left there and I went on to another entity and basically doubled my income at that entity within 6 months. And again, there were certain things that we didn't like, or that I didn't like at this other entity. And so we kind of realized that in this financial arena, that it's not something you can go in and make changes with. It's not something that you can, talk to the CEO or have a board meeting and say, well, no, I think this is unethical, or I don't agree with this. It'd almost be like you or me going to Chase or Wells Fargo Bank and saying, you know what, we don't agree with your policies. They don't care what you think. So I just decided, you know what, let's just start our own thing. And so through a mutual acquaintance, I was like the top guy at this particular entity. And he says, you know what, I know someone, man, that would be interested in working with you. And so when I talked to my business partner today, that's who that other person was. I said, man, you know what, let's just go all out. So we started a contract with another firm. And again, we got burned a little bit. And it wasn't something that we were in agreement with in terms of how they treat their clients. And I said, let's just go all out 100%. And that's what we did. And so that's how we got to where we are today. Well, that's how we started this industry, or this business rather.
I love you hit about 4 or 5 points that are perfect in the kind of, so people usually they'll start a job, they don't like the pay, they're complaining about the pay, but they're not willing to take the action to, get certification, do something different, take a chance. So I like that point. Second point is, my friend used to say, you get your pay raises when you switch jobs. You don't get your pay raises at a particular job. You get your pay raises as you switch jobs. And every time you switch, it's like you grew. Was it the sales training? Was it the environment? What made you triple and double your income like that?
When I worked at the school, I take my hat off to everyone who works at a school, because there's certain caps. You have to be there for like, I think 15 years at a school to make a certain amount of money. So I already knew. They wanted me to go into administration, but it's so much work involved and there's so much red tape, there's so much politics. So I already knew that that wasn't the way to go. And what was important for me, well, of course, was money, but it was my time, and time is money. Money is time to me. So I left there, and I didn't have any sales experience. And I got a little bit discouraged in the beginning, but I just stuck with it. I only had 1 month worth of rent to pay, or money to pay my rent, so I had no choice, to be honest with you. And then once I got my first deal, it's just started raining deals for me, and I never looked back after that. Now So I tripled my income there within 8 months. I literally tripled my income. And what made me make more money at the next entity is because, first of all, I knew a lot more. I knew the game a lot more, but also I was getting taken advantage of and I didn't know. And that's why I left the other entity, because they were taking advantage of the clients and me at the same time. So just the mere fact of me going to another location or another entity automatically boosted my income. And I was a consultant, so you can kind of like negotiate those things. And that's what also led us to where we are today. We're like, why work so hard and do all this work when we're just making pennies and crumbs and we're doing all the work? So that's my story in terms of how I made more money.
What I really like about sales jobs, now I'll hit a point about teachers, and I talk about this a lot on this channel, is like teachers and people who are in professions they actually love. Like if you love working with children, work with children. If you love being in these positions, work these positions, and find ways to invest, 5 and 10% of your income, because that's really where you're going to be able to grow. Or in your off season, real estate, different things. There's how they're going to be able to grow. Stick with what you love. But I liked how you're saying you learned, you paid attention, you did the math, honestly, of okay, honestly, the number, something's off here. I'm being taken advantage of. The clients are being taken advantage of, and you vote with your feet. And I really respect people who vote with their feet and they're willing to move jobs, because sales to me is an atmosphere of, if you're down to your last dollar and you go in a sales company and you're willing to learn some skills, you can have a very different month by the end of 30 days.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why.
It's interesting you say that, because when I was at the school, I had a comfortable salary. I think I might have reached 38,000 max, maybe with overtime, 40, who knows. So that was guaranteed every other week. When I left, I went to a sales position as a sales consultant where it's 100% commission. There was no salary. There's no safety net whatsoever. And I knew it was a risk, but I didn't mind, because I felt like there was no ceiling. I can make as much money as I wanted to make and also have control of my time. So that's what I like about sales. And I haven't worked, I haven't been in a salary position for so many years. I don't even know what it would feel like anymore, because I know that if someone's going to pay you something, then there's going to be tons and tons of restrictions with that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I have buddies who make 200K and they're on salary. I'm not mad at them. But for me, I'm okay with the 100% commission, because I know it's unlimited income potential.
I like that thinking. There's a lot of times people struggle with, man, they see the opportunity, but the scarcity mentality gets them tight. And I also think, were you young and single at the time? Were you married at the time when you took these jobs?
No, I had 2 small children and their mom, and I was the only person bringing in income. So everything was, and it had been like that for years. So by me branching out like that, that was a risk. My children my daughter was in dance. I think my son was doing like sports or something like that. So there were financial commitments that I had to take care of, but I just felt so, I guess, like, I don't want to say I was in prison, but I feel like I couldn't breathe. And so I had to get out of that school environment. It was the same thing every day, the same kind of work. I mean, just looking ahead, I didn't see any promise in the future. And I knew it wasn't for me.
So you're definitely not a security-esque person. There's some people who are like, security, same place, same day. And that's a legit actual description for some people. That's actually like when they do tests. Some people actually love the feeling of routine and security. And so that's interesting that you say that, because a lot more entrepreneurs and people who start their own businesses kind of are like, "Ooh, I gotta get out of that. Can't breathe." I always have two thoughts on that. Like, if somebody has a family, I've got to do what I've got to do for my family, and I think that drives you. They show incomes of men who are married or have small children make more, but I think it's also because they have a drive there. And also on the other side, if you're in sales and you're a single guy or a single girl, it's like the sky is the limit. Like you're just responsible for you. You just need to have clothes on your back and and a car you can drive. And that's kind of how I'm always.
No, I agree 100%, especially if you're single. I think you should just go for it. I had a family, so but you know what? Now that I think about it, when I moved, so I lived in New Jersey and I moved to Orlando, Florida. When I moved to Orlando, Florida, I didn't have a job. I shared one bedroom and our mattress was on the floor. So I went from that, I was volunteering at a school to I think making minimum wage, and they increased it to like maybe $15 or something like that. Then they brought me on board full time. So I had been progressing. It was small, it was incremental, but it was still progressing. And I felt like, what do I have to lose? I already came from the floor, sleeping on the mattress with my entire family, all four of us sleeping on the floor. So, and I didn't come from a rich family. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. My grandparents adopted me. They took me out of a drug home and took me back home and took me to the courthouse and adopted me. So, I mean, to me, I was nervous, I'm not going to lie. It was definitely a risk. My children's mom was kind of like, wait a minute, what's going to happen with our children's programs, blah, blah, blah. But I already came from nothing. So, I didn't feel like I had too much to lose. I feel like I had everything to gain, and I really do not regret it.
So to kind of touch back a little bit on, did they provide training, or where did you find training along the way? Was it self-initiative or company helped you a little bit there?
So, well, first of all, the company that I went to, they did provide training. I think I was improperly trained, to be honest with you, and that's one of the reasons why I left, because just like, and I know I'm jumping off here, but let's say even if you're in the police force, sometimes you can be improperly trained, to do your job. So I was improperly trained, but they did provide some level of training, like a 2-week program. But the thing that helped me is that I remember one of the guys there was constantly suggesting to, I think he was the first one to introduce me to Success Magazine. And I began to like really delve into it and listen to the audio tapes and the videotapes and things like that. And so that helped me out a lot, just constantly getting the reinforcement, whether it be in my car, whether it be on YouTube. I mean, those things super helped me. But I also grew up in a very, very rough area, and it wasn't sales training, but I can remember, growing up in Detroit in an extremely like violent area where you had to do certain things to survive. So you had to figure out ways to get around things. And I wasn't a big guy. I wasn't a fighter or anything like that. So it's not like I can just fight my way out of situations. So I had to really be creative and maneuver consistently just to, get home, go to school, get back home safely. So I think some of that actually prepared me for actually sales, believe it or not, because I don't feel like I'm in sales, even though that's the title that's used. I feel like I'm a problem solver, and a lot of times it's listening to what people have to say and figuring out, hey, how can I help? And when I hear about a problem and I figure out a way that I can help, that's when I jump in. And that's kind of like what I grew up doing. There was just problems after problems after problems. And I remember, you can't eat. What do you do? Or you don't have any clothes, or whatever. You figure out a way to get it done. So all that helped.
Yeah, I think being flexible in childhood does impact your adulthood, right? I think when you start having to learn certain skills at a very young age, those skills come back to play. Like, so people on this channel know my story is like, I'm a military kid and we moved. And so it was like having to talk to people, having to get to know new people, having to not be afraid, step out of your comfort zone, because if not, then this is going to be a really rough school year, right? So sometimes, and in no way comparable of a violent area at all of Detroit or anything like that. But just, I think sometimes you shouldn't coddle children. They should be kind of pushed out a little bit to handle tasks that are sometimes tough, because it can benefit them later. So
I agree.
As far as personal, like as you've gone on in years and you've tripled your income, you've grown, have you invested personally in like growing yourself through programs or courses or information or things like that?
God, heck yeah. I mean, have I invested? I remember even before, I'm from Detroit, and then I moved to Newark, New Jersey. I have been in every program you can think of, whether it be on the spiritual side. I studied the different religions. I studied astrology. I was constantly always searching for something better, just figuring out a way to make life better. I grew up in the church. There's nothing wrong with that. but I wanted to see what else was out there, what was better than what I had been taught. And so I went through all those schools of thought. I mean, you name it, I've probably been through it. And in terms of personal development, I began studying a ton of different things. Yeah, thanks. I began studying a ton of different things, even in that area. Thank you. For personal development as well. I remember even like information like Tony Robbins, Naeem Akbar. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. He wrote a bunch of books on psychology. Dr. Amos Wilson. He wrote these big, gigantic business books. And even up until recently, up until this very day, in terms of online marketing, I've been like looking at that area. I started an online radio station, an online radio program like many, many years ago. I wish I had kept up with it because it's like blowing up today, right? Man, I missed it.
You were ahead of the time. You were ahead of the time. Oh man.
I didn't stick with it though. I didn't stick with it. But even up until today, so I wanted to get back into online marketing. So as of last November, I've literally easily spent well over $30,000 going to different seminars, whether they be a one-day seminar, a weekend seminar, online courses. And I'm going to a course in September. I'll probably go to a couple courses before that. So as a goal, and I write it down on an index card pretty much every evening, and I look at it, and there's a certain amount that I don't mind spending in terms of educating myself or investing in myself every month. And then also quarterly, I try to go to at least one seminar of some sort where I am learning something. So yeah, big time, big time. Uh-oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was going to say, many times people say, well, what books are you reading? And I go, I've read many books to get to this location. Just me telling you this one book really won't create the same effect. And so I've been such I harp on the channel a lot about reading and going to seminars and going to meetups, because if you're in the room with the same 5 people all the time, it's like a group think, and you're all going to think the same thing, and you're all going to look at a problem the same way. But every time you go into a new room with 5 different new people, it's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Never thought about, it changes every time.
Yeah.
I think I bought this course one time for $1,000, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I implemented it and it was great. And then I bought a course for $27 one time about learning about Instagram. And I was like, I could have been doing this for 2 years. Where have I been? So
it was only $27.
Yeah, it was like she was just doing a sale that day. It was just for that day or whatever.
Okay.
So, but it was like, oh man, I've learned, because I was just like playing on Instagram, posting things, but not really realizing there are people who've grown their followers from 0 to 20,000 people in this amount of time, the time I'm goofing around, and I could have learned something a long time ago. So
I agree. I agree 100%. Just to piggyback on that, I know a lot of people get discouraged. I'm not saying just go out there and buy everything that's out there, but because I will say, like, I went to a program in January and it was $10,000 for one day. I had never spent that kind of money for a one-day course. But I said, you know what, let me try it out. And I'm not gonna say I regret it, but I probably should have done a little bit more homework, because, I think that, there were so many questions that needed to be answered. And the guy was like, just use Google. We're like, man, dude, I just paid you $10K. I should not have to use Google. That's what I'm coming to you for. But, this is a very well-known person too. I won't say his name, but I think that also my fault in that is that sometimes we purchase a course, in my case, and you figure like, oh, this is the silver bullet. Once I buy this one course, I'm going to be super successful. And it's not like that. A lot of times this is just a piece of a bigger puzzle. And so consistently educating or investing in myself is going to be a lifelong journey that I'm going to always pursue. Like my wife, she's an underwriter, and she's consistently taking all these certifications and consistently educating herself. And I think it should be the same. I mean, unfortunately, like I went to Rutgers University, and I think I went there for engineering, and I went there for finance. I'm not a smart guy, trust me. If I tell you my story, you'd be like, wow, this guy's not a genius at all. But I finally finished in electrical engineering and finance. And a lot of the material is like super outdated, I don't know how they sell these books for $200 and $300, and then the next semester they're only worth $8. I don't know how you do that. But you have to consistently educate yourself to keep up, especially with technology and the way things are going. And even if you want to be able to share new ideas, and I just thought about that because you said it. You said that if you go to different groups or different meetings, you're gonna it's almost like going to a gym, getting a different kind of exercise each time you go, and you're exercising muscles that you're not used to exercising. And I think the brain is the same way. So yeah, education is key. And there's one book that I would recommend, and it's called, I make no money off the book, but it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. I mean, oh, you like that book too? Okay, yeah.
That's a good book to recommend for everybody.
That is a good book.
I just think the timeline, there's one part in the book I always tell people, I'm like, there's two, if you don't get anything else from The One Thing, the little triangle where it talks about productivity, every one person, positive person you add to a company, it kind of helps it flow and push and grow. Because Grant Cardone's always saying when something's stopping in his company or he's like not having a bad month, he's like, I'm getting rid of somebody. Somebody is stopping my growth, which is crazy. He fired all the time. But
wow.
The other part of the book is timelines. People love saying, someday I'll do this. Someday I'll do this. And I go, no, tell me what you want. Write on a piece of paper in a paragraph, what do you desire? Now let's do a 5-year workout of that. Okay, to get to that 5-year mark, what can you do this year? What can you do this month? I talk with young ladies, which is funny. This is just like a girl talk moment, but they'll be like, girl, I'm going to get married and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm like, well, what would it take for you to do that? Well, I gotta work out. I gotta go on these online dating sites. I gotta do these things. And you're like, well, when are you going to do that? And so you start getting to these conversations where, you're not trying to psychoanalyze your friends, but you're like, you have to apply actual timelines and confront things in order for it to actually work. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes we have the same 100%. We have the same program here when we bring people on board, and they're like, I want to do X, Y, Z. We're like, okay, we'll provide you with the training. We'll, give you all the support you need. Now, when, you can't just consistently, like you said, I want to get married one day, but when do you want to get married? And when are you going to start moving in that direction in order to get married? And it's the same thing in business. I think, to me, life and business are so much alike. I know it's separated a lot of times, which I think, and hopefully, our business is different, where we don't separate business from life. We know where we see a person just as a transaction, or I need to make a certain amount of money to pay for my jet or my Lambo or something like that. We like to keep ethics in business, and I think that if you apply the same principles in life, I think those same quality principles apply in business as well. So I agree with you.
Yeah, a lot of times people will be like, oh, you're just trying to get clients. And I go, no, I'd much rather have fewer clients that are higher quality, super invested, because it's better for both of us. You're growing, I'm growing. I'm not just pouring into you with no results. And so in a lot of aspects, when people purchase things online or coaching or anything of that nature, I always go, listen, let's put some timelines on this. When are you wanting to do this? Because a lot of times I'll have one client that was 30 days, they're done. Or in the first quarter, they're done. They've made their goals, they've done everything. Then I'll have other clients, it's 6 months, it's 12 months. I said, it's not me here. It may be you stopping the progress, because you have to apply pressure to yourself,
Maybe that's the military upbringing that helps. That's good. That's a good quality. Yeah, I need somebody like that on me.
Well, sometimes I get on my friend's nerves, so I have to like pull it back. But there's sometimes where I always tell people, I'm like, if you just want to complain about it, let me know. Because I'm going to be like, what can we do to solve this? And that drives people crazy sometimes. And so you kind of have to go, all right, well, I'll just let them kind of vent. But, 3 months of venting, I'm going to be like, let's kind of wrap it up now.
I'm not sure what kind of coaching you do, but I wish I had a coach growing up in life in general. I wasn't raised by my biological parents per se. My grandparents, I think they did the best they could for me. But one of the missing elements that I saw even in the communities is just having a coach. Sometimes your coach is your dad, sometimes it's your mom, sometimes it's your uncle, or sometimes it's that guy, who shouldn't be your coach, or that negative influence. But even in business, we did this without any loans, no venture capital. We didn't have any financiers, no mastermind groups, no mentors. And it's not that we didn't want any, we didn't we couldn't afford, you know, some of them are like $25,000 just to walk in the door. We couldn't afford that. And it's not like they probably would have even understood our industry anyway. But we made a ton of mistakes. Oh my God, so many mistakes. And if we had the right coach or a coach kind of guiding us along the way, I think we'd probably be like maybe 10 steps further than what we are today. Even me personally, I don't have a quote unquote mentor per se, but I do try to like, I read the books, I listen to the YouTube, the podcast, I do all that stuff, and those serve as like my mentors in a sense. But I think that's so key to have a good coach, you know, pushing you or somebody directing you in whatever project it is you're doing. I mean, all the great NBA players have them and presidents and things like that. So I don't see why someone like myself wouldn't be able to benefit from it as well.
I would say 9 times out of 10, if you meet a very successful person, they can list to you a series of coaches along the way. Because, you know, you get to one level, it changes. One level, it changes. You know, even Tiger Woods, when he let one guy go and got a new guy, it was like it went downhill. So then he tried to go back and get the original guy. Mm-hmm. And so there's levels to this, you know, essentially. And so like when I talk about coaching on here, I'm like, I'm getting coaching to go to the next level. Like if there's bottlenecks in your business, you know, there's a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it's like on the front cover, it's like a guy trying to reach to this gap. And it's true, because like your mindset is what built your company to here, right? Your mindset is what has, you know, got you to this level. Now, you may be the bottleneck or something else may be bottleneck. You know, a certain number of employees may be the bottleneck. You never know. But I wanted to address this question. One of the questions was Charlo. They really enjoy your story, but another one is, can you be successful in sales without a college degree? I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to let you expand on that.
Oh, 100 and 200%. As a matter of fact, I think that the most successful salespeople, well, let me just go by what I've seen personally. So I have a finance degree and engineering degree, but I use none of that for sales. As a matter of fact, if I go into a business or I'm talking to an individual and if I'm too technical, I will lose the deal because I'll lose the person. They don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So the people who come in here, the ones who are successful at sales, honestly, we look for the people who, we're not saying we don't look for people who don't have a degree, but we prefer people who are just good at dealing with people. You know, if you like people, if you like talking to people, if you're good at building rapport, you're good at communication, you would do excellent in sales. Excellent. We often have people who come from the bank who come to work with us, and they're very technical, very corporate oriented, and they do not do well with sales at all.
Yeah, I think sales is something, the younger you start, the better. Like sometimes in forums, it'll be like a 19-year-old man and he'll be like, well, I don't want to go to college. I want to do this. And I'm like, do it. Don't let anybody take it. Like the younger you start, the better. I think I remember being 21 or 22 coming out of college because I spent an extra year, and there were guys who had already owned their own house, owned their own cars. They had either been in sales or trucking or military. They'd already kind of gotten started in life. And so a lot of this it's learning and unlearning. Right? Because if I
didn't start until like I was over 30 when I started in sales.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you came open-minded though. Like you were ready for change, ready for growth is what I mean. So you don't have to be 18 or 19, but you have to be kind of willing to learn and unlearn. And It's not even about the college degree. It's about learning, not for a paper, but there's certificates all over the internet you can get that can apply to your business, apply to your life, apply to your finances. There are many ways to learn along the way.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so we consistently recruit people, and one of the things we look for is someone who has the ability to simply communicate and build rapport. Just had a professional baseball player come in here. I think he started in January. He's doing extremely well. And he's just a cool, laid-back kid with his hair slicked to the side. And I don't know, he may be 30-something, I guess. I'm not sure how old he is. And he's not a technical person at all. He does extremely well. And then we had someone else come in who they have college degree. They're super, you know, by the letter, and they just don't do well. It's too rigid, you know. So I think if you're flexible and if you can build rapport, I think you'll be good at sales.
Charlo said, thank you, very encouraging. I was going to say, I noticed with a lot of football players, baseball players, like alumni sports sites for recruiting, they do get recruited very high for sales jobs.
I think they do that because they already have a big following, you know what I mean, for the most part. And also, I think, you know, in sports, you have to consistently deal with team. You know, you have to consistently communicate, especially if you like, this guy was a pitcher. So, you know, the pitcher is kind of like the nucleus of the team, if I'm correct, in baseball. So you're consistently communicating with, you know, third base, second base, first base, outfield, the catcher. So maybe that's one reason why they recruit athletes. I'm not really sure, but I would have to say it's because you're used to competition, for one. And I don't believe in competition per se like that, but they're competitive and they're team players for the most part.
That's a really, really good point. It's very true. Like they do fit that mold a lot. So where's your company located at? You know, what if somebody was in, you know, Florida? I think you're in Florida, and they want to come work for you. What would be some things you'd be open to, or where's your business located essentially?
So the office is in Orange, California. We have a couple of them, but the headquarters is in Orange, California, which is maybe an hour and a half from beautiful San Diego, maybe 45 minutes from LAX. I live in Orlando, Florida, so I go back and forth to the various offices, but I'm mainly here. So if they wanted to work with us, they could simply send me, let me see, how would they do this? They could call 800-770-5520, and they can choose option 6 and just say, hey, I heard Kaz, you know, on Erica Williams' Classic Climb, and I'm interested in seeing what I can, you know, if I can come work with you guys, and you know, go through the whole spiel there. Or they can also ask for Charles, or yeah, they can ask for Charles as well. Or they can go to ec-processing.com. So that's ec-processing.com. And if it's okay with you, if they want to follow this journey and see what it's about and what it took to get there, because what we have can apply to any type of business, to be honest with you. So, I mean, like my partner, like none of us are like super educated. We're not like, you know, these whiz kids. We're not connected to, you know, we don't know Bill Gates. We don't know Mark. We don't know anybody. You know what I mean? And I don't, as a matter of fact, we can't even get in those circles, to be honest with you. We don't want to. We don't care. So anybody can be successful, whatever it is they're doing. So they can go to KhaazRa, that's KhaazRa.com. Hopefully the site is somewhat decent looking. I have a guy working on it for me. And they can get information there about the entire journey, and I'll be sharing everything that I know, like literally everything that I know, all of the mistakes, there's a ton of those, and all the successes as well.
Dude, I think sales is very much a door of opportunity. It's very much a barrier breaker. Whether you're a young Hispanic guy, a young Black guy, a young white guy, I think, or a woman, of any of those categories, I feel like sales gives you the opportunity to have a level playing field, and you can grow as much as you want or as much as you don't want. So I love as many times as I can get salespeople on to kind of, they're usually very optimistic. They're usually like, you know what I mean? They're like, hey, apply yourself. So
yeah, I would say, you know what? I don't even feel like I sell, to be honest with you. I just feel like I use like a little bit of influence, a little bit of persuasion tactics. I don't want to say tactics. I just like people, to be honest with you. And so I don't have a sales pitch or anything like that. It's just communicating with someone and finding out, you know, how can I be of assistance? Like, how can I help you? And that's kind of like how I sell. And I think that's one thing, at least in our industry, that separates a good, quote unquote, sales consultant from one that is not as good, is that, and I was talking with a guy yesterday out of Minnesota, and he was telling me he's not been able to sell. And I listened to what he was saying, and I'm careful about how I talk to people, but I heard him say one thing, and I'm like, dude, everybody's saying that. If you're just going into a business and you're talking about price, I mean, that's one way, you know, businesses, so there's competition in everything, right? And if business owners can't tell the difference between one business from another, they have all these faceless businesses offering the same product, and also offering, you know, lower and lower prices, then what differentiates us from the next person? If everyone's offering the same product, same prices, and we're all faceless, so to speak, faceless entities. So I said, you have to be able to go in and you can't just talk price. You got to talk about something different. I gave him an example. Hopefully I can give the example here and it's not too corny. But I said, you know, man, you know, because he says he's a ladies' man. I said, if you're a ladies' man, you know, and you meet a woman, right? Regardless to what you have in the back of your mind, you're not just going to come out and say it. You'd be an idiot to say it. She may be thinking the same thing, but she's not going to say it either. And that's why I think women would be even better salespeople sometimes, because they're really good at tinkering with the emotions and things like that and picking up on emotions, and just picking up on vibes, period. So I said, you know, you meet this woman and you're attracted to her, you're not going to come out and say what it is you may want to happen. What you're going to do is you're going to open the doors, you're going to pull out her chair for her, you're going to offer her this, you're going to find out how you can be extremely valuable to the point where she says voluntarily, she wants to put herself in your arms. She wants to almost like you take a picture. It's almost like, you know what, you set the frame up and she says, you know what, can I get in the picture? You know what I mean? To the point where she voluntarily wants you to be with you. And I think it's the same with business. When you provide so much value to a business, without saying it, they're going to say, you know what, well, how can I do business with you? You know, let's make this work, because I think the deal is already done emotionally. And I think rationally, they make it make sense afterwards. So we'll see what happens with him today. I'm going to talk to him today, and hopefully that worked. But that has normally worked with most of our sales consultants, just tweaking it a little bit and not being so salesy, so to speak.
Two things I was going to say is when you talk about problem solving, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a problem solver. I love that, because truly that's what it is. It's you have a problem, let me help you, you know? Right. Mm-hmm. Like I think I got Grant Cardone's like selling closes app on my phone, which cracks me up to this day, because I'll look through some of them and other people are like, oh, the price. Hey, you have a problem. It requires this price, or, you know, there's just different techniques in the app that crack you up as the answer, because truly it's not about the price and it's not about all these other things that everybody's going to come in their office and say over and over. Mm-hmm. It's their problem. Making it, what is the problem you're coming there to fix? Because 9 times out of 10, I get on the phone with people, and my goal is just to give you as much value as possible, whether you choose to continue to coaching with me or work with me. And 9 times out of 10, at the end of the phone conversation, they're like, well, I would like to work with you. How do I do that? Right? You don't have to pitch yourself. You just provide value. You just provide help to the problem. Right. And I think that's a really great way of looking at it. Yeah. It's just like solving.
I just try to use everyday life examples, you know, and I always, you know, for guys, I say, listen, if you see a woman that you want to be with, I mean, unless you're an idiot, you're not just going to come out and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z. You build up to it. You do so much for her, where she naturally is just inclined to do whatever it is you want to do. You know, she's with you. And then for a woman, you know, women, I think, already have a natural tendency to get what they want. You know, women are already attracting as it is, you know, and my wife, she's not a salesperson, but she's so sweet, she's so nice that you just want to do stuff for her. You know what I mean? So I think and she provides so much value, and that's her way of selling. You know, I know everybody has a different way of selling. Some people are like hardcore, you know, I'm just going to walk in and, you know, just close you, which is okay for some people, I guess. But for me and for the people who have been successful at it, I haven't seen that to be the best way to sell. I think it's definitely a numbers game when you sell that way. You have to see so many people to do it like that. But I think that for me, that the better way is through relationship building and just building rapport and providing value.
For sure. What's funny is, I didn't even know we were going to go there in the conversation, but it's funny because I was just having a conversation with a friend about people being in the friend zone. And I say, well, here's the problem with the friend zone. It's of course, they've created it in their mind, because you can be nice, you can give all this value. But if you've tried to like sneak around to like the side door and kind of knock on the side door, instead of coming up to the front door, like, I am providing you value because I am interested in you. Mm-hmm. You know, a more honest approach than try to like, I'm gonna sneak on the side because I'm your friend, and people don't like that. Right. And so when people complain about the friend zone, I always keep telling them, I'm like, well, the person is already feeling like you're trying to come on the side of them and kind of be on the sneak tip instead of kind of being more forward with your feelings. So I think that's very true. Like, you know, if you're a guy, it's a numbers game with women, but once you do see a woman that you really enjoy, if you're kind of upfront and you're kind of direct, a little bit more than like slightly direct, right, those go well. those go much better because they're used to the guy that's like, hey, trying to sneak in.
I agree with you about the side door thing. You know, in terms of something like that, you know, I can see that being an issue where, you know, maybe you, I guess it would make a woman feel uncomfortable, but, you know, your actions can speak louder than words, you know, so you do things that show interest, you know, don't come in like, you know, you just want to be a friend. You do things that actually show that you are interested, but it's done through action, you know, pulling out, you know, opening the door and pulling out the chair for her and, you know, paying for her meals and just whatever you can do that a friend would not do, but it's in the action of it.
For sure, for sure. For sure, for sure. I always think that's funny because I just watched this one guy talk about that. He's like, no, don't blame her for the friend zone. You put yourself there trying to slide on the door, sneak around in the back like, hey, let me in. I'm so nice. And he's like, it was just super funny. The guy, he said many words that were not appropriate for this conversation, but it was a good video because it was just truthful. He's like, you know, you played yourself basically. Right. So Aisha James, this is probably one of the last questions, and I'm gonna let you go because I know you're actually a very busy person. Elsa James, purchasing a course scares me because of the amount of the course. There's a course I'd like to take for a chance to have help opening a business step by step. Words of advice. I'm gonna let you answer first, and then I'll go.
So she's saying that she doesn't want to. She's scared because of the amount of the course.
Yes, the price is scaring her.
How much is it?
I don't know. She didn't give any information.
Oh, okay.
James, if you could give every information, that'd be great. But, you know, in general, I have what I want to say, but I'm going to let you answer.
You know, I've told you about the $10,000 day program we went to, right? And I felt like I didn't get my money's worth, but maybe I could have followed up a little bit more in the program. There was so many other things that I needed to know in order to make his program work that I didn't know. So it was like, oh my God, why did I pay $10K for that? But now, today, with technology and even in knowing you, I know I can find the answer. And those other missing elements, I know I'll be able to implement that program. But did that stop me? Absolutely not. Right after that, I joined a program that's $397 per month. I bought another and right after that, I bought another program for $2,000. And there's just one shot $2,000 program just last week. And I'm not like, you know, just throwing money out the window here, but just last week I paid $6,500 as a down payment on a $15,000 3-day program. And I'm telling you, I would go for it because I mean, you know, make sure that, you know, the person is not, doesn't have like a million negative reviews online or anything like that. But I would say if you really want to get into something, I think you have to invest. I really don't see any other way around it. I mean, you can read all kinds of journals and magazines online. It'll take you forever and ever and ever and ever to figure out what it is this specialist can show you. And the whole purpose to me in paying for education is to shorten the learning curve, you know, because you can learn anything you want to and you're going to make a million mistakes doing it. But like if there was a book on our industry or a person, as a matter of fact, here's an example. When we started off years ago, there was some guy online, he had a $10,000 fee called a success fee. And I was like, man, well, I'm sure it's a success fee because he'll be successful if we pay him $10K. I was like, oh, hell no. But today, and I was talking to my partner about this, we always joke about it. I said he could have charged $20,000 and we would have paid it if we had known the information that we would have obtained in order to help us. Because we have left so many millions on the table as a result of not knowing certain things. I mean, Eric, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, millions of dollars of just not knowing. So today we just paid for another guy who's going to walk us through a procedure. His fee is $25K to do it. But it's going to be so worth it because the long run, we're going to make so much more money. And it's not just about money. We're providing opportunities. We're providing jobs here. We have a good sized staff. I mean, there's tons of people now who have a better lifestyle. So it's not just about money, but it's about our time and also providing opportunities. But if we did not invest to make ourselves better, so I would say go for it.
I love that it's called a success fee. I love that. That guy is marketing genius there. Okay.
I wish we had jumped on it though. I was just like 10K for a success fee. I'm like, man, yeah, successful for him, but I wasn't thinking right, you know. So, like I said, in hindsight, I wish we had have done that for sure.
So she said it's $4,000, but here's what I was going to say. By the time you spend 2 to 4 years researching and Googling and trying to get this free information, people will have wasted years of their life. And there's a great book called The Power of Now or Get Started Now.
Yeah. Chomsky, I know what you're talking about. He wrote another book too. I know what you're referring to.
Yeah. And so what happens is it's truly about the power now. Like, you will never be this young again, this fit again, this strong again, this in tune with your mind. You know, people, what happens is, I remember a friend, he had this ideal to own a trucking company, and he bought 2 trucks. And then he started dating this woman who was like, no, just relax. You know, you don't need to do all that. And one truck broke down, and then another truck broke. And then years later, he was saying, no, I was right in my mind. If I had not listened to her, I would have, you know, bought 10 more trucks, you know, because he had, you know, some money from an accident. I think he had like $500,000 from an accident. So he really could have, you know, did this bigger thing instead of this smaller thing and kind of upset with himself. Right. And so I know she's saying she works a 9 to 5 and it's hard, but I've seen people they'll do this $20, $90, $100, and they keep staying in this range and then make pocket change and go, I'm really mad. And then finally make that bigger leap to the more expensive course. Mm-hmm. And a change in 30 days.
I would say go for it for sure, because, you know, another example, I could give so many examples, but I just gave you one with our business. You know, either you pay now or you pay later. You even think about, let's say you have children and, you know, you want to cut corners on their education and things like that. You will pay, you may save some money then, but you're going to pay later in ignorance. And I think it's the same thing in anything. You have to pay the money. Maybe she can find another course or something like that if she wants to, if she doesn't feel comfortable with that. $4,000, it's a little bit of money, but you know, the connections, the network of people that you're going to be around that are also going to support you, because you're not going to have a whole bunch of people just, you know, lollygagging who are paying $4,000 for this particular course. I think it's worth it. Even the 10K program that I went into, the people that I met and the net worth of the people that I met and the information that they had, it's probably worth about 10K, to be honest with you, just for me to be around that and to see what other people are doing and say, oh, wow, this is really happening. I'm the only one who doesn't know who's behind the 8 ball, so to speak. So I say go for it. I think that it needs to be consistent education. 4,000 probably should be the start. You know, maybe next quarter it's another 4,000 or whatever. I think you get what you get back what you put into it, and that's through time or money. So we can always get more money, but the one thing that I think we can never get more of is time. And so shorten your learning curve and go for it.
I love that. I mean, and I tell people sometimes, if they're thinking about starting a business, you have to think about, are you creating yourself a job? Are you creating yourself a business where you're the manager and you could hire somebody even part-time to do some of the tasks that are getting ready to be started? And a lot of people say, well, Eric, I work 9 to 5. I work 9 to 5. And so I have a friend who works 9 to 5, but he hired 2 young teenagers, and they're in college, to power wash these cars at a dealership at night. So 10 to 2 is when they have to be at the dealership. That's the only time they can be, so the cars are dry and the parking lot's dry in the morning or whatever. And so these kids are, you know, power washing these cars, cleaning these cars, because it's pollen season in North Carolina. And I asked him, well, how do you feel about that? He said, well, I'm in bed. He's like, I trained them. They know what they're doing. I'm in bed. I get up the next day. As long as there's no problems, we're good to go. And so he's got all these contracts with car dealerships, and he's paying these kids who are young and they're going to be up late anyway. And so I think sometimes people, you don't look at it as a job replacing a job when you start a business. You look at it as a business owner, you know, being able to provide opportunities for other people and opportunity of time, of course, for yourself. Sure. So
that's a good point there, providing other opportunities. Absolutely.
So everybody, I don't want to keep him too long. She said, thank you, James, Miss James there. I just love talking to people who, it's very true what you said, that there's a seminar that I'm going to pay for. One's $500, and then there's another one that's like $6,000 for this weekend. And I was like, oh my gosh. But then I started seeing the list of people who were coming, and I was like, hey, what they doing? What that person's doing? Oh, I'm going. I'm paying. Because it's not about, I mean, half the time I go to real estate stuff or like there was a weekend for $400 in Nashville. the people, everybody, every single person in that room,
Mm-hmm.
if I had cash that day, like if I just had a pocket of cash, I could invest and be invested all over Nashville, because that was the quality of people that were in the room. And it was $400, but I think people don't realize so many people won't even pay to get that, you know, just to get that next level. So by the time you get in a room with people who have paid, it is a serious group of people in the room.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
there's really no way around it. I mean, whether you think about world religions or culture, you know, someone had to sacrifice, even if they didn't originate, they had to go to learn that culture. Maybe they had to, you know, quote unquote, go through what we call the jungle or something like that. Maybe, you know, a group of 10 went, but only 2 lived. But the 2 that lived, they came back with this invaluable information that helps, you know, humanity out. So, you know, the people who fly to the moon or, you know, fly in outer space, not everybody makes it back alive. But there's still a humongous sacrifice in order for someone to move further ahead. So maybe, you know, if you're investing in an educational program, maybe you don't benefit right away exactly. Maybe not you per se, not right away. You know, it's another book by Jeff Olson called The Slight Edge. Maybe it's an effect that happens over time, but think about those loved ones around you who now will have that information as well. Maybe you have children, maybe you have a brother, a sister, maybe you have parents, and you say, you know what, I learned this information, let me pass it on. So somebody will benefit from the information for sure.
Man, okay. Last 2 points and I promise we're done. I was gonna say I had a friend, he has a son who the teacher was like, this kid needs tutoring, really needs tutoring. And he's no, I'm gonna make him read more. And then they were like, nope, he's got to repeat this grade. I think it was 4th grade. 4th or 5th, 4th grade. And this guy now is shelling out $400 every single month for tutoring. And his wife is like, I told you before, we could have got this, we could have spent the same $400 last year, but now we're spending $400 all this year when we could have just did that last year. So who really paid? Was it paid? Was it you or the child?
Right.
Right. So that was he came to my mind as soon as
I just heard about a friend of mine from Detroit, actually. I just found out about this. He stepped on a nail, and instead of going to the doctor, I guess he tried to treat it himself. Maybe he didn't have insurance, he didn't want to pay. And, you know, sadly, I just heard that he had his leg amputated as a result. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we don't want to pay. And it's just no shortcuts, you know? I mean, there really aren't too many shortcuts to be out there. So you got to pay. You got to pay. You got to pay to play.
Spend the money. Spend the money. I mean, what's funny is, and I'll close it, but that's really sad about his leg. It's like, I know people who have hurt teeth. Like right now, I know a person with a tooth that's hurting, and he's like, oh, I can't go. We're like, you have your mouth is swollen. Go. Like crazy.
I'm one of those idiots that did that when I was young too. I was like trying to cut corners. My mouth was like killing me. I went to a dentist, and he was like, I can do XYZ for you. And I was like, no, man, no, I can save this tooth. And he just gave me the x-ray. I know he probably said to himself, this freaking idiot. There's nothing I could have done. I was just being super cheap about it. So yeah, you gotta pay. You gotta pay. You gotta pay. Gotta pay.
Yeah, I'm wrapping us up and getting us out of here. But yeah, there was one time I had to pay like $250 for, like, I had I think an ad, something happened wrong with the ad on Facebook, and it was $250. And I was like, man, I ain't paying this $250. And I waited so long, and I finally paid the $250. And I can't even joke you, I had 3 people sign up the next week that spent $1,000 each. So I was like, you let $250, because you want to argue with Facebook about an ad, stop you from these 3 clients who probably would have paid earlier. I mean, you know, it was just small stuff that catches people up. There's no shortcuts, people. Everybody, I want to thank Mr. Khaaz for his time. You know, we went a little bit over than 30 minutes, but it has been a blessing to have you on today. People really like your story. I just always like people who are you know, they can show you results because they're living it. And if you guys go on his Facebook page or his Instagram page, him and his wife look like they're living a great life. They're taking some really nice vacations and eating good restaurants. So, Mr. Khaaz, would you like to say goodbye to our audience? And I'll just finish.
Yes, thank you so much, Erica, for having me on your show. I really like your energy. I hope that, you know, your audience, you know, takes advantage of what you're offering here. You know, it doesn't matter what age, but I mean, I wish, you know, that I had something like this maybe when I was in my teens or even in college. I mean, man, you could be like light years ahead of the game just by getting this information. So thank you for this. And if anyone's interested, I mean, I don't necessarily teach sales per se. I do, but I don't. So if someone wants to actually get into it, we can actually show them how to do it and they can start making money. Also, if they want to follow me on the on my journey, they can go to KhaazRa, KhaazRa.com, and I'll be teaching a ton of stuff there. Eventually, I will have some programs right now, just kind of really wrapped up into, you know, finishing what we have to do here. So thank you so much, and I appreciate every question out there, and hope that I can be of assistance in the future.
All right, everybody, Mr. Khaaz, we're going to get him straight. We're going to get him his website and his books and his courses going in the future, because I think he's got a great story there. Everybody, this is Erica from the Classy Climb blog. Listen, always, I'll make sure to get Mr. Khaaz links, and I'll put his links below. Always check below in the description. That's where they'll go, and sometimes in the comments. Thank you, Mr. Khaaz. Thank you for your time today. You guys stay great.
Okay, thank you.